Tom Golden, thanks for coming back on the air with me. It's great to have you back for another discussion. How you doing?
Martin, I'm good. It's good to be here.
The topic I wanted to explore today is what is the role of a father? And I have some strong views with the years of working with men's groups, working on my own self-improvement and others. But I thought I would start with you and then chime in my own views on it. And we could kick off a discussion. Then hopefully this would continue where others could comment below as well.
Yeah, well, just off the top of my head, the role of father is massive, and the role of parenting really is massive, and oftentimes it's split up in different ways. But usually, the dads have a big role in setting limits,
Mm-hmm.
in being able to say no sometimes. In fact, they found that this capacity of fathers to say no, and you can think about, the kid says, "I want my ice cream." Dad says, "No ice cream till you finish your broccoli." The kid says, "I don't want to eat the broccoli." "No ice cream till you eat your broccoli." So the dads often will be the ones to set that limit. What the researchers have found now is that just that limit setting by the dad creates empathy, the beginnings of empathy in the children.
Wow.
Yeah, we've known for years, or we've thought for years, that it was the moms that, "No, dear," that taught empathy, but it's really the fathers. Because what happens is when the father says, "No ice cream until you eat your broccoli," the child starts to learn that they have to perceive the world through another person's eyes. They have to perceive the world through the father's eyes. That's the rudiment of empathy. It's being able to see the world through someone else's eyes. And so it's interesting that the thing that the fathers do, which is, set limits and be stiff sometimes about how things are going to go, is actually what's building this empathy in kids. And, that's just one thing. There's so many different things that dads do, the dads will do things naturally. When my kids were little, I used to take them and throw them up in the air and catch them, and throw them up in the air and catch them. And I looked around, all of the other dads are doing the same thing. It's kind of a dad thing to do. And of course, the mothers all the time are going, "You don't get to trap my child." Right? And the fathers are laughing, "Ah," and the kids are loving it. "Ah," they throw them up in the air. And now we know from research that, daggone, if it doesn't help children later with risk taking to be thrown up in the air like that. So there's little things that dads do that we don't even know about yet that are instrumental in the mental health and probably the physical health of that child. So those are just two little examples of dads and what they do for kids.
I think that's such a wonderful example because one of the concerns we're seeing in society is sometimes an absence of compassion and empathy.
Yeah, really.
And I've been wondering, what is the anatomy of creating empathy, especially an article I wrote on machine learning and AI,
Yes.
What causes this? And of course, what we have is a very big absence of supporting fathers and active fathers in our culture collectively.
Yes.
So you should see more behavior that looks like it has no empathy, which means something awful happens on the ground. Instead of helping them, the person gets out their phone and makes a YouTube video laughing at them,
Yes.
I think that's great. And one way I view it as is the importance of the father of holding boundaries.
Yes.
That do not move.
Broccoli.
As a lesson. And I remember a guy describing, there was a young man, they were all standing on a pier, and this young man was kind of cutting out fishing with them and so forth. And he got a fish and it pulled him into the water.
Pulled the boy in?
The boy into the water. He was wailing and failing and so forth. And they let him struggle and get himself out. And what the guy knew is that the fathers were making sure he wasn't drowning.
Right.
But allowed him to struggle, so he learned some self-confidence.
Yes.
And I think that one of the absence, that's to me the calculated risk. Letting him climb up the tree so he knows worst he's going to get bruised. I might stop him if he goes to the next limb because he might break his neck. But
Yes.
the importance of teaching and encouraging calculated risk is the second thing you said.
Yes.
And if they don't get it, they don't get it.
Yes.
And then of course what you have is people that won't take risk, and then they aren't achievers, they aren't launching and so forth.
Oh, they walk around in fear.
Yes, because they don't build real confidence. And I was talking to someone, and somebody said they're, so and so, my child's so bright, and they were kind of a smart aleck making a comment. They had it was a great quote. They go, well, now is my dad your best friend? And I said, well, I don't know, he's my best friend, but he's a good friend. And then the kid goes, oh, that's terrible. She was messing with him. Okay. And I said, that's pretty clever. But to me, you succeed so well in school, you will never get real confidence until you start learning how to take risk where you make mistakes.
Yes, when you fail.
When you fail. And so what occurs is a lot of this, to me, what I call over coddling, is they're protecting them from failure, so they'll never have real confidence. Always give them praise, but they don't fail, so they don't build they don't believe it. They know it's a farce. And that's, to me, that one of the roles of the father is step forward and say, no, there's someone going to lose and someone's going to win. It's okay, son. You failed at the game. You may not be good at everything, but you failed. Let's get back on and try it.
Yes.
And I think that's where the character's built, where the real confidence comes in from the failures. I know I have much more confidence in speaking, and it's because of 10,000 little failures I made and got up and kept going.
Yes. Correct.
So I think there are two things I want to reiterate. One is the boundaries. And this is one of the tragedies I talked about before, of the fathers that are putting more energy on being their son's best friend or daughter than being a father. And now I'm very passionate about it. I say buddy fathers are almost as bad as no father at all. Now you've kind of disagreed with it, but my point is, if they're the buddy and they don't set the real boundaries, where the boundaries slide, then what occurs is they don't develop something. They seem to have what, from my unprofessional perspective, what I call wounds similar to someone who never had a father. And that's, now remember, I'm not a therapist. I'm not trying to be, this is just anecdotal, experiential, but it's interesting to me of what happens with all the men's groups and men I met around the years. And that if the father's a buddy father and doesn't hold the boundary solid, calculated risk, and doing some of these things, the person, to me, shows up like someone who didn't have a father at all.
I hear you.
So I think those are two, and what wonderful things. There's one more thing that I think is really important in the father, and it's the toughest thing for the father to do, is those moments when he knows the best thing for the kid is X, and mom doesn't like it. But for him to be independent one day and successful, compassionately but firmly holding the ground, where he goes, I understand you don't like him doing this, but I'm going to either let him do it or not do it, and mom's not as happy with it. And this is, to me, some of the toughest territory for fathers to hold that ground, not being mean to mom or something else. I'll give one example. Is one father in a group one time said, I want my son to know gun safety, because I know not knowing it means it's more dangerous if he's ever around a gun, which I personally agree too.
Right.
But the mother was just ballistic. He will never be around guns. I'm horrified them. I'm scared of them. And, it's really interesting because the guy told the story about his dad who took him out. They worked with the gun. They shot a can. It scared him. He had a humble experience of it. He was aware, and he realized gun safety. And then one day someone had a gun, and he goes, no, you can't play with that. And he stood up for it because of his dad holding the ground. And he just remembers his father being mad, his mother being mad at him for a long time. And that's the fortitude and the role of the father. That's, it's easy to do it when everyone's supporting you. but holding that ground is important. And my concern, Tom, is there's so little support for the element and core and value and appreciation of a father today. It's easier for them to slip or give up or compromise on this stuff. And what are your views on that?
No, I think we basically banned fathers from the homes these days.
Mm-hmm.
The divorce courts or through welfare or for a number of other reasons, our country has committed suicide by pulling fathers out of the home.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's absolutely insane what we've done. And it's just,
it hurts the daughters too. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Glorify single mothers as if they're wonderful. And the research is pretty clear, and that is that the single fathers do a better job of bringing up kids than do single mothers. And it's better to have both parents.
Yeah,
both of them. We need to work to strive to get both parents with the kids as much as possible, even if there's pathology.
Right.
Because kids need both parents. Period.
Yeah, and of course we've talked about it. Imagine if there was, a young girl being brought up, and you said, young girls don't need women or mothers in their lives at all. It's not that important. It's just not that important.
That's right.
Fathers can raise young girls on their own. Yep. They aren't that important. That's offensive for even me to say, Tom. I'm offended by my statement. But it seems like in our culture, we say that all the time with fathers. Oh, you don't need fathers. Oh, let me show you. It's another way to, this isn't needed at all. Instead of realize, wait a second,
Yep.
What? Maybe we need both. Maybe the distinction is valuable. Maybe they both have value. It doesn't mean one excludes another. They're both important.
That's for sure.
And so that's why I want to have this discussion. And also I want to tell you, Tom, in the men's work I've done, I met a lot of dads that will claim, my wife ruined my son. And I have something strong to say about that. You didn't hold your ground at the expense of the wife being mad too many times. Is usually when I start questioning, tell me more specifically like that. He goes, well, I didn't want this, but she insisted on it. And I go, and what did you do? He goes, well, I had to give in. No, you didn't have to give in.
Right.
The livelihood, the survival of your son, and you buckled on it. And that I don't blame them, but also how our society doesn't honor the value of this. There was probably no men in his life to say, wait a second. This is the survival of your son being independent and work. Hold your ground. Don't be mean to your wife. Be compassionate. Say, I'm sorry, honey. I know you're upset, but I'm holding the ground. And that's another thing I've heard is this complaint. So, my wife ruined my kids. No, you didn't step up as a father, is my view.
Yep.
And now you what can you do to recover it?
And I'll agree with you wholeheartedly as long as we agree to the opposite.
Yep.
Is that you can't say that the father's ruined the son.
Right.
It's got to go both ways.
Right. It takes two to tango. Right, Tom?
The women are almost always excused and given excuses for this and that. They were abused as children. They were mentally ill, blah, blah, blah. But the fathers are not excused at all. They're, they're thrown out. It's crazy. We're living in a crazy place. It's nothing.
Yeah. Well, that's really a good point. Thanks for bringing it up because, my passion is workability. And that when I believe when we don't have sufficient fathering and sufficient mothering, what we have is more violence or giving up. And that's what we're seeing at a large area. Another thing I think I want to talk about that I think is the essence of fathering is what I call the giving of full attention. I mean, the way I view it is the essence of the mother energy, and this isn't black and white, it's more of a bell curve. The essence of the mother energy is sort of an embracing, loving. And the essence of a father is giving of his attention. And I'd love for you to talk to it, but it really is, I've really seen that when some young man or something occurs, I pause and I really give him my attention. It may not be my, someone directly, but I pause and go, wait a second, let's give this young man attention and how it seems to feed his soul so much. And would you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's another essence of the role of the father.
Yeah. It's the kingly role. And the if you look at kings, people would usually strive to get into the gaze of the king. That was a blessing. The Pope these days, being seen by the Pope, being seen, being in the gaze of, it's a huge thing. Think of the number of times as a little boy you said, Dad, watch, Dad, watch, right?
Right.
This is the young boy begging for this gaze, begging for this acknowledgement, this masculine acknowledgement that he needs so much. And if the father just turns his head and goes, nice job, looking good, or whatever, the boy goes, yes, he's got this one little brick that's built in there that's his masculinity to start being built when the father can watch and bless him for who he is.
What a wonderful phrase. Giving his attention as a blessing for who he is.
Yes.
And listening for it.
And it builds it one little brick at a time.
Yeah. Which is different than give every one of the kids the same award. So it has no it's kind of snuck on me and go, wait a second, who won and lost? Oh, we don't win or lose here. I go, how are they going to survive the real world?
Crazy.
How are they going to ever build real confidence without failure?
That's what we're seeing a lot of these days is kids who really don't know how to lose.
Yeah. Which means they have no confidence inside.
They got participation trophies.
Yeah.
And they didn't struggle, and you got to struggle.
Yeah.
And then get blessed for the struggle,
So what's your advice to a father who heard this and goes, oh my God, I've been doing it wrong. And I hate to use the word wrong because to me, I'm open for anything that works in the world. What's your advice? Where do they start with this? Because
I kind of think that a father hearing our conversation is go, oh my God, I'm doing this right.
Uh-huh.
And he's going to say, damn, the things that I'm doing are probably good for my son and daughter. And Dad, you're right. The things you do naturally, the things you do by instinct are exactly what your kids need. And don't let anybody talk you out of it,
What a beautiful way to say it. What a great way. Thank you. That's excellent. Because you're right. I've seen so many situations where even a father might be kind of a functional alcoholic in other areas and then see them with the kids and how it brings something forward. They may still have that wound unresolved, but they bring forward something. They love their kids and it brings something out of them. They still tragically may battle something. It doesn't always work out, but they still step up to the plate in those areas. Now, I'm sure there are lots of people would disagree and examples otherwise, but I think that's so important like you said, trust your instinct.
And their presence is important, whether they're alcoholics or not.
Right.
It's really critical. And we need to find ways to help get them. And, frankly, for an alcoholic, it really helps to know that you're having an impact on your kids. You're going to be more motivated to beat that drug.
Yeah, right. That's a great idea. We are not saying we encourage that.
We cut people off from their kids. What's going to happen? It's going to throw them back into this place where they feel like life sucks.
Mm-hmm.
It's worthless. Where's the damn whiskey?
Right.
Give me a drink, damn it. Fuck this.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember the t-shirt that said, I'm a father, not an ATM machine. Hey.
Yeah, that's true too.
Important too. And I also think honoring that fathers doing things for their kid is one of their way of showing their love, like working together to build the treehouse or something. My dad I love it. My dad worked with me to build this lie detector for a science fair. And I do remember him saying, I think we would have saved money just buying one, because we probably cost 3 times as much at Radio Shack to do it. And what I love in it is I made the labels on it. And he was a very good speller, and I misspelled one of the words, and he left it there. I really get the wisdom in that today.
Yes.
Because then I misspelled calibrate. And this is a guy who never missed the spelling at all. And he could have stepped in and did it. But you know what? Then there was no question I did it. And he made sure he supervised that I was soldering things safe and didn't burn down the house and stuff like that. But I did it. And I found that cleaning up after they passed on. And I have it still. And I love it. I keep it on the shelf with the misspelling of calibration. Huh?
How did you spell it?
I'll get it. You know what? I'll get it and try to put a picture in the comments.
Remember?
I don't know how.
Put it in the low bar. Put the picture down in the low bar. So
I will. I'll put it somewhere in here on it. But it's really funny because it's like it's misspelled and I got the wisdom in it. And that's to me one of the examples of fathering.
Fathers do things just that you never forget, but are very subtle. I'll never forget my father. He was an engineer and I was not and never will be an engineer. And so he would help me build things, right? Because I really like to build things, even though I wasn't good at it. I'd be sawing and sawing and sawing. And he'd look at me and he'd go, let the tool do the work.
Yeah.
Let the tool do the work. He didn't say, you shouldn't do it like that. Or kiss my ass, why are you doing this? It's like, let the tool do the work. And I'd say, yeah. But I realized it clicked in at the time. Yeah, I need to just, do this more gently and more thoroughly and blah, blah, blah. So fathers do things like that. They tell us things and they set limits without even saying it sometimes. They can be very subtle.
So what can, I met some wonderful mothers that have come to me and others to say, I want to support my husband in being a better father. What can I do? I'd love to get yours, your comments on that as well.
I think it's pretty simple what they can do, and that is admire him. When women admire their husbands, the husbands flourish. That's fuel for the masculine. When they're respected and admired, men flourish. Mm-hmm. And if you think back, ladies, to the first time you met, that first month or so when you were in a relationship, you admired the heck out of him. You thought the world of him and he cherished you. Of course, those are the two things that go back and forth. You need to be cherished to get your fuel. He needs to be admired to get his. So when you can admire him, he'll flourish. He'll do the right things because that's just what he needs. That's his fuel.
So you're saying the way to support him in being a better father is admire him. And I would add, just know sometimes you might ask yourself, it may not be the way I do it, but unless the house is burning down, let him do it and work with the son. Unless the child is,
trust.
Back off a little, because her essence is want to protect. And that's a beautiful thing, and love and protect. And, I'm grateful for that mother energy as well. And the father's job is to encourage those calculated risks. Now, it doesn't mean a mother can't do this, but there is a difference when it comes to a testosterone-based creature called the young boy from a testosterone creature that knows what it's like. There's a little different, just like the value that a mother can give to her daughter in a way a father can't quite give that same value.
Can never.
He doesn't have estrogen running through his bloodstream.
Right. He didn't grow up with that.
And to understand her world, it's okay. The father, and many dads are fine with it. I love my daughter and, she fights with my wife and learns things, and that's their thing, in their world as well. So I think both of those are really important aspects.
Yeah.
And I think we've covered some of the big ones. I just want to review some that we have. One is setting boundaries and holding them unconditionally. So don't set it unless you can do it and hold it. The other one is encouraging calculated risks so they learn to make mistakes and figure things out and be able to survive with it. And the other one I loved is the holding of attention. And you had a better word than I did. What did you call it?
It's a blessing.
A blessing, right.
The father is a blessing.
Yeah, of his attention.
Yes.
And then also that a lot of men, they show love by doing, and there's nothing wrong with that. So doing those projects with the kids, make something. That is a great, there's a guy in business, and he's just really sunk into the Scouts with his son, and they're always doing things. And I really get the gold his son's getting, but also get the gold the dad's getting from being in that world, doing things with him.
Yes.
As well. Well, this is great. I just wanted to take a moment. I want people to leave comments. You may agree or disagree. Again, this is something that, to me, the cost of not having this conversation is a guaranteed pathway for more violence in our culture and more kids just giving up completely. It's my view. And I actually boldly say the not supporting our young males to mature, not supporting our fathers, to me, may be one of the root causes of the violence in our culture today. And so that's my view. Tom, you have any closing comments?
No, only the follow the research. The research is very clear. It says that fatherlessness is the cause of about, I think it's up to 7 problems, like early pregnancy for girls, juvenile delinquency. There's all kinds of things. The research now is saying that fatherlessness actually causes these things. It's not correlative. Most social science research goes as, oh, well, this is correlated with this, and yes, that must be connected, and blah, blah. No, this is causes. They've got it down to where they know that it causes it. So please, let's get fathers in the home, period.
Outstanding. Tom, I'm working on another book, but please tell them some of your books as well and how they can learn more about you.
Oh, gosh. Most of the books I've written are for The Way Men Heal, and one was actually titled The Way Men Heal. And it's all about men and how we tend to deal with loss in different ways and process emotions in different ways. And then the last one I wrote was on boys for mothers, explaining boys for moms. Because moms don't have that testosterone. So the book is kind of helping moms see a little bit differently how that testosterone impacts things and what she can do about it. And people can find me at themenaregood.com, tgolden.com, or patreon.com/menargood, or YouTube Men Are Good.
Excellent. We'll put that in the comment area below. Well, thanks, Tom. I love the discussion. What wonderful stories you shared as well. Look forward to hearing other people sharing them below, and I'll add links and resources at the bottom of the video.
Good deal. It's good to be with you.
Thanks.
We'll see you.